In this video, I'm going to help you find a better position to be in whilst breastfeeding so that you feel less pain, you don't get as aches and pains so much, and you're in a much healthier, more optimum position. We think a lot about how baby's positioned and how they can be positioned differently and better so they get a better latch. But do we think about our own position very much? Probably not as much as we should do. So let's do that now. Let's look at how we're positioning ourselves and see if we can find a stronger, healthier position for us whilst we're feeding. Okay, so I'm going to feed my baby on the sofa because I'm going to say the sofa is probably your first choice to feed your baby most of the time. So obviously I do not advise for you to put your baby down on the sofa and leave them unattended. However, mine is a doll and I don't think she's going to go very far, so I'll just pop her there. So what I'd like you to do is think about how you're positioned before you start feeding. So I'm going to say this is possibly a position you'd get yourself into. You'd put a pillow behind your back to get this gap between your bottom and the back of the sofa and get ready to feed. Now, if you're in this position with your pillow behind your back, can you see how even when I look forward, my neck is not straight? If my neck was straight on my body, it would be here, and you're not going to sit like this. You're going to sit like this, or even looking down at baby even further. So I want you to get into a position where you have your bottom shuffled right back to the back of the chair, and that means that your neck can be straight. Once you do that, you'll find that you'll probably find your feet won't quite touch the floor. So grab yourself a what are they called, puffies? A footstool or something to place your feet on rather than having them dangling. Also think about, so you're thinking neutral, so my legs here are quite neutral to my pelvis rather than if I just kind of sat with them flopped out. I'm kind of finding more of a neutral stance, my feet are grounded, or if your feet were out on a stool, that's cool, but rather than being right together, just let them be nice and neutral to your pelvis. Think about your pelvis being in a neutral position, so you know what neutral is. If not, section 1 has neutral pelvis. Go watch that video. Have your pelvis in a neutral position. When you're sat on a sofa, you quite want to tuck your pelvis under so you're like slouched down, but don't sit with your pelvis neutrally, okay? And then you'll have a nice straight spine, and you've got here so that your neck is nice and straight. Then you can start feeding. Once you've found your comfortable position, you can start feeding your baby. Now you've found a really good position. What I don't want you to do now is grab your baby and come to baby to feed them, because you'll end up in this slouched position and you're going to be in that position a little while, aren't you? So what I'd like you to do is find your nice comfortable position and then bring your baby to you. So you bring your baby to you, and you might want to use some pillows, ta-da, to place your baby on so that you can stay sat up nice and straight while you're feeding baby. Now you'll probably find that you're going to look down at baby, and that is cool. I'm not going to tell you to stop looking down at your baby. Look down at your baby as much as you want. Gaze at your baby, enjoy it, take it all in. But if your attention does go away from your baby and you read a book or you look at your phone, instead of doing what you'd naturally do and do this at your book or your phone, what I'd like you to do to compensate for the time you're spending looking down at your baby is to now bring your book up higher. Can you bring your book to here or your phone to here? Yeah, okay, so you're using your arm to have to do that. Maybe your arm will ache a bit, but you're going to save your neck and you're going to add some muscles to your arm. So can you bring that device or that phone up higher so that you can spend some of your time whilst you're feeding looking up to compensate for the time that you're going to spend looking down? Another top tip is when you start feeding, once you've got to this position, think about your shoulders. So you're probably going to be curled around a little bit like this. Your neck and your shoulders are probably going to have a little bit of tension. So what I'd like you to try and do is think about pulling your shoulders back to get that nice stretch, as long as it's not going to disturb baby, because doing this could disturb a small baby from their latch. So only do it if it's not going to disturb your baby. But if you stretch your shoulders back, feel that nice stretch across your chest here. Nice stretch, because we spend so much time like this. This feels so good to stretch out, and then just relax and let your shoulders find the place that they want to be. And then take a deep breath in and relax your shoulders. Relax on the out breath. Deep breath in And let your shoulders relax. Do that 3 times. And I'm sure in those 3 breaths that so much tension will leave your neck and shoulders because you're telling it to, when you're telling it to relax and you're telling it to go, that you'll feel so much more relaxed, and that'll help with any neck and shoulder pain or tightness that you're getting. If you can, and it's not going to disturb your baby too much, I'd advise for you to move position every 20 minutes. It's good to think about positional changes every 20 minutes because we can really get ourselves static sometimes, and that can cause like aches and pains and pressure in places, especially if you're sat feeding for a long time. So every 20 minutes, think about having a shuffle, even if it's just like a shuffle around, and then you replace yourself exactly back and you think about your shoulders again. But it'll allow yourself to think about where your neck is, relax your shoulders again. Have you started slouching? Is your pelvis still in neutral position? It'll prompt you to think of all of those things every 20 minutes and just go back to a nice neutral stance. It is okay to feed like this slightly. So I would probably naturally want to feed like this, or with my legs up like this. You can see that I'm kind of tilted on a side, and it's not optimum to be like this for a lot of the time. But our bodies are designed to move, so it's okay to be like this. 20 minutes later, I'm going to change, I'm going to be like this. 20 minutes later, I might put that leg down. As long as we're moving around and we don't adopt a position that we're going to stay in every time. If I adopted this position every time I fed my baby for hours each day, that's going to cause me problems because I'm laying on a side. But if I adopt this position, and then this position, and then this position, and you see I'm moving around, that's going to be okay. Our bodies are meant to move. They're meant to find all these different positions. They're not meant to be static in one position. Okay, so I have a few more tips that I can add to that for when you're feeding lying down on your side. So if you're lying down to feed your baby, the same sort of thing applies. Think about neutral position all the way down. Think where you're placing your body. Find a nice neutral position. Pop a pillow between your knees, because when you're lying down, if your knees are together, it is taking the alignment out of your pelvis, and that's going to put strain on your pelvis and your back. So if you put a pillow between your knees, that's going to keep that alignment in your pelvis. You could also put a pillow between your ankles, or if your pillow goes kind of here, it's going to kind of be between your knees and your ankles. Having a pillow between your ankles will keep your knees aligned, because if you have a pillow just here, then your ankles are going to go together and that's not aligning your knees. Can you see that? You see how when my ankles are apart, my knees are straight. When my ankles are together, I'm kind of putting a twist on them. So if I've got a pillow between my knees and ankles, it could be the same pillow if you put it long ways, then it just keeps all of my body in alignment. Neutral pelvis, because it's really easy to tuck your pelvis one way or the other when you lie flat. Neutral pelvis, straight spine. When you're laid flat, when you're lying flat, you might find that you want to push your chest out towards your baby. So your baby's lying in front of you, and then you push your chest to your baby. If you're doing that, look what you're doing to your pelvis. You're tilting your pelvis forward, you're putting strain on your back, you're curving your back, you're going to end up probably going to find you'll have your neck tilted backwards. So make sure you find your alignment, and again, you're bringing your baby to you. Don't come and meet your baby halfway. So find your nice position, bring your baby up to you, and do the same thing with your shoulders and your neck. Have one pillow here so that your neck is straight, and you've got one pillow that will keep your head in this position, not 2 pillows that are going to mean your head is like this, because you'll end up with a crick in your neck. You'll gaze down at baby as much as you want, but once you're not gazing at baby, bring your head up back to neutral. Same things apply. Do your breaths to relax your shoulders. Okay, I hope that was helpful and you've got some tips there to bring into your feeding. There was lots of tips there. Don't worry if you don't remember them all. Take 1 or 2 tips away to think about the next time you're feeding, implement them, then come back to the video and pick up a couple more tips and then implement them into your feeding, and so on until you find yourself in a nice, comfortable position.